And it is Monday, and we are always excited to welcome from Baton Rouge the head coach of the LSU Tigers, Coach Brian Kelly, after a big win over Auburn. Army this weekend, Coach. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
I know everything is moving ahead, but just a quick thought on Saturday night. I'll let you explain, but it looked pretty good from my television set.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to watch this offense. Jaden Daniels is playing at an elite level. The consistency in which they're playing, I think it's 6 consecutive games with over 500 yards. I think he's put himself squarely in the conversation as, one of the best players in the country, and good for him. I mean, last year at this time, we were talking about 85 yards in passing against Auburn. So he's done all the work necessary to put himself in these kinds of conversations. But I think the real piece here is that we're playing closer to the complementary football necessary to be a good football team in the SEC, and that is you got to play better defense. And obviously we, hadn't done that up to this point. I thought we played better. Our defensive line play was better. We're competing for the ball in the back end and tackling better. There's progress that still needs to be made, but we're taking the steps in the right direction.
Coach, I realize you're seeing it frame by frame, but is it just a couple of things that get better, not get better, but the work that goes into it and it looks better and it works better? Because it looked totally different defensively from one week to the next.
Paul, I think it starts with the structure of the defense. This is the second week in a row now that we've gone to a 4-down defense. We had been in 3-down. I think it just fits better. It puts Harold Perkins in a position where we can get into 4-down as a pass rusher. He can also play in space. He can impact the game in a more consistent fashion where everybody knows where they fit now. And I think this is the second week in a row. There's some consistency. And when guys know what everybody else is doing and what their jobs are, we don't have guys trying to do somebody else's job, which, as you know, can create some problems defensively. So we're attacking at the line of scrimmage. Getting the structure right was really the first ingredient. I think that's where the development starts to take place.
And a final thought on Jaden, because you alluded to where he was a year ago. I know it's a big pot of things that have changed, but what would you concentrate on or isolate on in terms of his biggest acceleration from last year to where we are right now in the middle of the season?
Well, I think it starts with the recognition of the offense itself. He was coming from a direct snap offense and now being in this offense and then spending, certainly the second year in it. He made progress, obviously, during the year last year. We saw that visibly as the season went on. But I think it was all the work that he did in the offseason. A lot of the training that went into his development was the time that he spent. Whether it be, VR training, virtual reality training, off-season training, working with quarterback coaches. He's the one who did this. And now there's a comfort level with the offense. And you can see that by just the way he plays the game. It comes to him a lot easier. Last year at this time, it didn't come easy. So that's confidence. That's certainly knowledge. And now he can use his athletic ability, and all those things come together as one.
Coach, we're sitting here. You have a non-conference game against Army. Certainly, everyone respects what they do at West Point, and then the bye week, and then even though you're not looking ahead, a lot of fans are, and I know you alluded to that at some point between the game and today. But how do you get everyone on your team to stay focused? You're a favorite in a game like this. You're supposed to win, but there's more to it than that. How do you communicate that to your program?
I think first and foremost, let's recognize the special atmosphere that will be created by playing a service academy and how lucky they are to be involved in this game. This is the first time we've ever hosted in Tiger Stadium a service academy in Army. Our governor is a West Point grad. So there's so much about playing the academies and such a respect that we have for them. So just the opportunity to play in this game. Then the ability to continue to develop. And we already talked about how far our defense needs to continue to develop. And then certainly, you've got a player like Daniels who needs to continue to show himself, and our offense that needs to continue to grow. So there's so much at stake for this football team. As long as they're not distracted by next week or the week after and stay focused on what's important right now, this should be a great weekend.
And on that point, you alluded to the service academy, but it is different. And I know in your previous stops you've played a lot of service academies, but for those who have not participated in something like this, talk about that experience as a head coach, competing with academies that really represent the best of all of us.
The greatest leaders that are going to be representing and fighting for our country, putting their lives on the line. There's such a deep respect for what they do. And in some instances, Saturday is the easiest part of their week, because of their training and certainly what they have to do on a day-to-day basis. So I just think when we're talking about playing the academies, Air Force, Army, and Navy, just the respect for the student athlete and what they have to do, and then what they do after their career is over in terms of playing football. Again, it's just a special arrangement that we get an opportunity to play these academies.
We're talking to Coach Brian Kelly. Coach, I was on a program, I think it was Sunday morning, and I was talking about the Washington game against Oregon, which was really an amazing football game. You were probably very busy and didn't see it. But I made some reference to the Pac-12, and I realize you're in the SEC and you wanted to be, but is there a way to compare all what happens in the SEC versus all these other leagues? Because commentators love to get put in those positions. Coaches don't really look at it like we are because they're only concentrating on who their team is about to play. But you've been around, you've seen a lot. Where is the SEC right now?
I think it's probably there's as much parity in this league than maybe there's been in many years. Certainly Georgia and Alabama have been the two schools that have consistently been there. LSU obviously in 19, but clearly there is a clearer, deeper SEC in terms of the ability to compete at the top. So I think it's cyclical, right? I mean, each year in college football, the transfer portal has shown that there's a little bit more parity. Again, free agency, they say in the NFL is what brings parity, but I think there's a little bit more of that balance in the SEC this year. But who knows what happens next year? We bring in Oklahoma, we bring in Texas. That's a pretty deep SEC when you bring in two more, top 10 teams. We have 6 teams ranked in the top 25. You're going to add, if you add Oklahoma and you add certainly Texas, you've got 8 teams ranked. That's a pretty deep SEC.
Yeah, well, it's what you wanted, and you're getting it. Of course, your first year you managed to get to the SEC championship game. You made it look too easy, Coach. Listen, thanks always for your time on these Mondays. We thoroughly enjoy it.
Me too. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much. Coach Brian Kelly joining us from Baton Rouge as the LSU Tigers, fresh off a big win over Auburn, take on Army this Saturday night in Baton Rouge. We'll take a short break. Much more to come right after this.